Hello and welcome to Keeping Connected on the Go, optimizing your Microsoft 365 mobile apps. My name is Nathan Austin, and I'll be presenting today, and Stephanie Kingsley will be producing behind the scenes. Thanks for joining us today. You know, mobility and using mobile apps is pretty much a core part of our world today. Now, I understand not everyone uses their personal mobile device for work, and so they might choose to not have these apps on their phone, depending on the role they have for their organization. But for those of you who do use your phone for business purposes, we're going to talk about some of the security concerns and capabilities that Microsoft 365 apps can address. And we're going to talk about optimizing some of the key applications and some of the ways to customize them, because they're different. Let's face it, their mobile apps are different than the ones that we see on our desktops all the time. So we are going to have about 30 minutes of content today. And at the end, we are going to answer some questions. So I actually have a mobile emulator or a mirroring tool. So we're actually going to show the apps on a mobile phone, so we can walk through any of those questions you might have, especially if you're I don't know if struggling is the right word, but if you're trying to find a way to accomplish something in one of the Office mobile apps, I've got them all installed on a demo phone, and we're going to walk through those, and we can answer any questions at the end. With that said, so here's what we're going to do today. Again, the purpose of the session, let's talk about some of the capabilities of the mobile apps. I'm going to specifically highlight a subset of them. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but we can definitely open it up and hit on some additional ones towards the Q&A. And I'm going to focus on the common problems that I want to hit on, is focus on some of the common ones that can enhance communication, collaboration, and productivity for the individual, because using a mobile phone, it's an individual experience. So I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to demonstrate a lot of the capabilities, some of which you might already know, and that's okay. Forgive me if it's repetition for you, but also trying to show some of the some new features that have just recently come out on the mobile apps, as well as just different ways to customize the experience for you on some mobile apps. Then, of course, as I mentioned, we'll open it up for Q&A at the end. And the session is being recorded for future reference, and we'll send it out after the session today. All right, with that said, thank you very much. We're going to take 1 minute about MyTech. You know, our organization, what we've learned, we've been doing this for a couple years now, where we've been really investing time and energy in helping our clients and the community at large learn how to use these tools better. We're not a training organization, but we've learned that our clients and the community, they're paying for these tools and they're investing in these tools on a monthly basis, but they might not be using them to their advantage or really leveraging them to their fullest ability. So that's part of the reason why we do this today. But ultimately, MyTech is a business and technology consulting organization, and you know, over 20 years of being in business, we've learned proven IT strategy that can deliver consistent results for you, our client. And really, we just want to remove those IT challenges, because there's plenty of challenges that we all face in our world today. And we just try and help you take off some of the IT ones, because ultimately we want to make your business more adaptable, so you can serve your customers better and adapt to those other changes that you know, our world requires for our businesses. Ultimately, working together, we know that our clients achieve 4 times more value and productivity from their IT investments. If you're interested in learning more about that, we'd love to hear from you. But enough about MyTech. Let's move on with the content of today for mobility. Okay, we're going to start just a high level of consideration for the Microsoft applications. So let's hit on an important variable that I think is maybe the elephant in the room, but it's important to note. And I'm talking about all those folks who, organizations in particular, who enable or choose to enable people to use mobile phones to access business information. Now, maybe you don't have compliance regulations that applies to data that your organization leverages. Maybe you do. Either way, confidentiality and keeping your information secure is most often the utmost concern about mobility. So, and having just data out there on different devices that you don't know where it might exist. So one of the key capabilities that is core to what Microsoft applications can do is some basic mobile device management. Now, I'm not going to get into that a lot today, but I definitely wanted to touch on it as far as if you're going to start extending the ability of people to use mobile devices to access your corporate information, understanding a couple concepts that you have the ability to enforce certain security policies. For instance, one of them that you could do, You don't have to, but one of them that you could do is say, if you're going to access our corporate email, you need to use the Outlook application, the Outlook mobile app. So you can actually restrict the applications from which people access your corporate information. You can also require that the phone has a certain level of security on it. And I'm not talking necessarily about, I guess I'm also talking about multi-factor authentication, but that's something separate that your organization might implement. I'm talking about security on the phone itself, requiring a certain level of password or something like that. So there's different security parameters that you can employ to make sure that your data is being secured. And the concept that I'd like to familiarize everyone with, and one of the reasons to potentially choose to limit access to your corporate systems on mobile apps is to the Microsoft apps, is that you can containerize the data, containerize your data. And what I mean by that is, in general, if someone has their personal phone and they choose to use the native mail application on any respective phone that they may use, they are also, and oftentimes unbeknownst to them, giving you, the organization, permission to completely wipe that phone's data. And I don't just mean the email data, I mean completely wipe the phone, because it's a security precaution in case that phone is ever lost or stolen. So one of the ways you can avoid from wiping out someone's kids' birthday pictures or family reunion or a wedding or a reunion or something like that, and other data that is personal to that person's personal phone, is that you can require them to access your corporate data only via the Microsoft apps. And then what you can do is actually remove the data from those apps only versus wiping the entire phone. So there's some additional enhancements there that as an end user I would appreciate, so that you're not wiping my personal pictures of my wife and our vacation, but you can yet still protect your corporate data. So again, these are some basic mobile device management capabilities that are built into Microsoft 365 tools that I wanted to touch on today, since we're going to be talking about mobile apps. That's not the core content of the session, but it's an important variable that I want to make sure that anyone investing their time in this effort has a foundational understanding. The second thing I'd like to touch on, and this is just an honorable mention, is that all of these applications, Microsoft 365 applications, are free. Now, doesn't mean the licensing that you as a user have for your organization, that's not saying those licenses are free, but all of the mobile apps are free. And I really appreciate that Microsoft took this approach, because it made the ability to access your corporate information more ubiquitous across the different types of devices people might choose to access, from which they might choose to access, whether it's an iPhone, an Android, iOS, or a tablet, etc. They're all free, and so there's no cost to be able to use these tools. Finally, so this is what we're going to focus our time on today, is that there's some top recommendation mobile apps and some customization to those apps. Primarily, we're going to focus on Outlook, Teams, ToDo, and OneDrive. Are they going to be the key focuses of today? Again, please, if you have other questions, start putting them in the Q&A. We can talk about Planner, we can talk about SharePoint, we can talk about Stream, OneNote, and we will touch on Office Lens just a little bit. All of those, I can definitely answer questions at the end, but the core applications we're going to focus on during the demonstration today is, again, Outlook, Teams, ToDo, and OneDrive. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to actually get ready to, I'm enabling my phone and starting the screen mirroring, for the application. And I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to minimize the PowerPoint presentation. So get that out of the way. Sorry about that. And I'm going to hit this, show the taskbar, and the show for the moment. Okay, so now you should be able to see the phone. So this is a phone emulator. I basically, this home screen here is the common, I installed all of the not all of the Microsoft applications, but a lot of the most common ones with Outlook, Teams, ToDo, and OneDrive. Those are the ones we're going to focus on today. And I mentioned SharePoint, Planner, OneNote, and Stream. I do recommend that if you ever want to be able to have more editing capability on your phone, which I don't like editing on my phone, but if you do ever want to do that, and you are capable and it does work, to install either the Excel if you the Excel, Word, or PowerPoint individually, or you can install, there's actually a Microsoft Office application that basically, by installing this one, it's also installing all of these. So it's a little bit of a redundancy, but I wanted to mention it. For those of you who might be using multi-factor authentication, you might have a Microsoft Authenticator app. That's one of the ones that my tech uses. And then Office Lens is kind of an add-on that works really well with OneDrive, and there's some cool capabilities of Lens as well. So we're not going to focus on that, but if you have any questions, go ahead and start posting them today. But let's dig into Outlook. Okay, so again, this might sound boring, but one of the things that I wanted to show is that, well, one, you just see this here at the bottom. There's a new capability where you can play your emails. I actually haven't played with this a lot, but where they can actually read your emails to you. So that's something that exists in the new Outlook app. But one of the things I want to focus on is the settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click up in this section up here. So you can't see where I'm clicking, but I'm going to click right up here on the on my kind of the logo here, and I'm actually going to come down to this settings button right down here. I wonder if I can, no, it doesn't. I didn't think the mouse worked on that. But one of the things that I like to show, if you scroll down, I'm just going to scroll down. People, some of them like it, some of them don't, but the focused inbox, which is one of the capabilities of the more current versions of Outlook on your desktop, it's a really easy capability to turn it on and off right here. As far as just hitting that button right here. So you can turn that on or not. And then there's, of course, this drop down comes in if you want to, do you want to turn it on just the focus inbox or not, badge count. Again, these are some of the basic customizations. The other one that's a common, I found that people either love it or hate it. Hate it's a strong word, either like it or don't like it, is the idea to organize by thread. And that's this one here. And basically that groups your email into different conversations. So this is one of the ways to toggle that on and off if you weren't sure how to do that. Again, that play my emails functionality that I just mentioned is right here. You can turn that on if you want your emails to be able to be read to you. One of the things I also like is in this, if you can, in the swipe options section right here, you can actually choose how you want the swipes to work. If I'm swiping right, what do I want that to do? So I can choose what swiping right allows me to do. So I think that's good because you can customize that experience. Or if you swipe left, what do you want that to do? I actually would prefer it to delete, not archive. So that's what I'm going to choose to select as an example. So there's a couple options. The other thing I like, now I'm going to go out of the settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click back here on the X to get out of the settings. I'm actually going to click on this task. So a logo here. One of the things that I like is that when on any given email, I actually asked Stephanie just to email me an attachment so we could test this. If you click on the little the ellipse right up here on your phone, there's some things you can do that are relatively, some of them have been there for a while, but some of them that are new. So being able to move is there, but in Outlook, you have the ability to ignore conversations. So for instance, if somebody is sending you email about the company picnic that you're not able to attend, or the hiking trip, or the maybe doing some mountain biking or something like that, you can choose to ignore that conversation if you don't need to be a part of it. This is how you can do it. It's basically you just click up here on the ellipse, the little breadcrumbs, and that allows you to then select that. But one of the things that I really like is, from a productivity perspective, is either flagging that email, because one of the things that is not a recommended best practice is marking your email as unread if you need to do something with it. I know I was guilty of that. I would be reading my email and I'd say, oh gosh, I need to do something about that back when I get back in front of my laptop, and I would mark it as unread. Well, don't do that, because now you have emails in your inbox that are marked as unread because you haven't read them, and emails that are inbox that are marked as unread because you need to do something with them. So instead of marking them as unread, either flag them, or what's new now is you can actually create a task. So you can actually go into there, and I'm going to try this, and I'm going to hit create task. All right, so that's good. I'm going to hit done. So that should pop up, I believe, in my to-do. Yep, so it's going to pop in my to-do, and we'll view that later. Just it'll be the subject of logo. So that's, again, just by hitting the little breadcrumbs or ellipse right up here, that gives you the option to be able to customize some of those experiences. Again, from a personal productivity perspective, I would recommend either flagging or creating a task from your email. Do not mark it as unread if it's something that you need to take an action to accomplish. Okay, all right, now I'm going to go back into the settings again. Forgive me, I'm going back up here. And I'm going to click down here into the settings. And this is one of the examples of something that you could require. This goes down into a little bit of the security. I'm just scrolling down here. Is requiring passcode. So down here, for instance, you could also require additional security. This is, I believe, in fact, I know this is one of those areas where you as an organization can choose to require additional access. So if they're logging into their phone and they open up Outlook, if you're not requiring MFA or you don't have MFA set up, you could require that they have to use this feature and have it turned on, which is requiring the passcode. So you could use this feature where saying, hey, when I open up Outlook, I actually need to require the passcode that I use to unlock the phone, or if you have a one of the more current devices that are using a Face ID, you could also require Face ID to open up the application. So just another layer of security potentially for that application. So those are some of the things that you can actually set organizationally around the Outlook app. Just to be aware of. I'm going to turn that off because I do not want to have to do that in the moment for this demonstration. Again, you can also choose when you click on directions, which map tool do you want to be able to use, which is also kind of cool because some people have preferences around that too. The last thing I really wanted to show is under some notifications. Is that you can turn on different, being able to set your notifications that you want as far as alert times, turning on notifications for your app. Some people like to turn on notifications and some people don't like to be distracted by them. So just knowing that that's where you can do that. And then the other thing that I like is I believe this is the way to do it. I clicked on the add-ins. There's some awesome add-ins that you could do with different third-party applications as well. Similar to what you can do in Teams, by the way. So just some different capabilities that you might look at as far as some of the customizations for your experience within Outlook. Okay. So the last thing that I wanted to mention around that is around multiple accounts. So here at the top, you can add. So right now I've got my demo account, our demo account set up as an account, but you can actually add additional accounts. So if you are, say, on a board of directors, or maybe your family has email accounts that you use or separate emails that you use, and you're using O365 or not, you can add different accounts, and you can actually toggle. If you've done that, when you click on this up here, you can actually choose to view all of those email addresses. You can actually choose it right here. You'd be able to, if I had multiple accounts, you'd be able to choose the different accounts to view one versus the other, or view both in your inbox. So so I like that capability of having multiple accounts in Outlook because the reality of the world today, a lot of people do have multiple accounts, and you can separate them via Outlook, but use them also in the same application. So that's kind of nice too, because I know my wife and I do that for our communication and for appointments for that we use. We use different. We use this Outlook application, and I have multiple accounts in that for our communication. Okay, now I'm going to swipe out of Outlook, and move over to Teams. So I'm going to click on Teams. All right. So now you might notice this is the same. If I pull up Teams here, and forgive me, Stephanie, I'm going to pull up Teams, and you'll be able to see all of these teams that are here are basically going to are the same teams that you see here, right? So I'm seeing the exact same teams on my Teams mobile app. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this now, but I wanted to show you those teams. And one of the things that's different about how to manage Teams is when you click into it, I'm going to click on the little ellipse up here, because if you're trying to manage Teams, it's similar to how you do it in the Teams desktop application here by clicking on the ellipse where you can see all these different, the manage members, the channels, and or edit the team. So I'm going to click back on the ellipse up here. But there's also the settings, the gear icon, which is only accessible for this purpose when you're in the Teams view, because I'm in the Teams view right now. So if you haven't clicked on this little gear icon, I like to show that because this also allows you to customize what teams do you want to see in your list. So this is kind of the hide, unhide option that might exist for you in the Teams application. So if you, when you're working remotely or you're accessing from your phone, if you don't see some of the teams in your list, this is where you can make them available or not. And that's basically, again, I'm going to go back. It's basically by clicking this little gear icon up here. So you click the gear icon, and that's where you can choose to add the different teams to your list or not. So that's something that if you haven't seen that before, I wanted to share that. Now I'm going to go back just to this little hamburger. We call it the hamburger icon. Stick with the food nomenclature. I'm going to click on that, and that's where I can start getting into other settings. So I click on that and it gives me access to settings. It also gives me the access that if I am a part of multiple organizations, so if I've been shared different Teams accounts, this is where I can toggle between those different accounts. As being a guest of MyTech or the Contoso demo account, which you can see I'm in. So if you have multiple accounts, this is where you can add those and toggle between them. And then I'm going to show quick on the settings where you can just turn on different capabilities. You know, dark theme. Some people, if you're an engineer, I heard a lot of engineers seem to like the dark theme, so you can switch that back and forth. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to close out of the app at the moment. It's also where you can manage notifications. One of the things I like about the notifications in Teams is you can choose, because it's mobile, you might want to have different notifications on your mobile than you have on your desktop. If you're in front of your laptop or desktop, you might have, again, you just might want different notifications on your mobile device, so you're not doubling up on them potentially. So anyway, here's ways in which you can customize the notifications for Teams. So I didn't want to get too much into the details because there's not a ton to customize in Teams, but I definitely wanted to talk about how you can add accounts down here. Inside of settings, but then this is where, if you go back and click on the hamburger icon up here, this is where you can toggle between the different accounts once you've added those accounts, or you can also add one here too. So those are some of the things to be able to customize your Teams experience, manage your teams, manage the view of your teams that you're used to doing in the desktop application or the web browser. All right, I'm going to click out of Teams and I'm going to move over to ToDo. ToDo is one of my favorite mobile apps. It's probably the one that I use the most, other than Teams, but this is the one that I use personally, meaning that this is where if I'm in a meeting, instead of writing an action down on a notebook, I write that action down in ToDo. So I'm going to go back to my list. So what I did is I clicked on, I'm going to click on my day. So this is what the default is. I'm just going to click back right here on lists. And that gives me the different lists that I've created. I'll show you where to customize some of that. But like, I love being able to use this for personal to-dos. It helps me keep track of those things when I'm in meetings. I can categorize them. Again, I just created home errands, whatever. If I just, if I'm in a meeting, I can say, hey, that thing we just agreed on to accomplish. So I can actually do this right in a meeting, as opposed to writing it down on a notepad and then writing it down and then transposing that into some sort of digital list. That's something that I like to be able to use the ToDo. Now, if you recall earlier when I added that task from Outlook, I'm going to click into tasks right here, and we should see a task that's called logo. So I'm going to click in here, and there you go, right at the top. The logo. This is where, when I added that email as a task, this is where that populated, and it's got the message attachment that I then could open in Outlook if I wanted to. So that's a cool way to be able to use some of the mobile apps in ToDo. One of the things that I wanted to show, if you wanted to create a new list, it's really simple down here at the bottom, because you can customize all of these, where I said, this is my department list. So if I'm, let's say I'm a part of a department, and I need to manage things relative to my department, I can put that there. I can create new custom lists. And then I'm actually going to go click up into here under my name, and that is going to pull me into different settings that are available. Again, each app has a different way of accessing settings, so that's also kind of unique, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to show different folks how to use different pieces. So, and ToDo is also was originally created from or developed out of or converted from Wunderlist. So if you used to use Wunderlist, that's what Microsoft has converted into ToDo. So if you're using that or you still are using Wunderlist, you can import that right in. So I like that capability. The other thing that I wanted to note is down here, when you look at this section, you know, if anyone uses Planner, this is where you can choose to integrate Planner activities or not. So if you want Planner activities to be shown up in here, these are different things you can turn the Assign to You on. It's also where you can connect the apps here. So if I'm gonna actually go back really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. The Assign to You, this is out of Planner. So the Assign to You section is out of Planner. So I'm gonna go back on lists, and I'm gonna click back up here on my name. And but that's where I can turn that on or off is right here. Also, if you want to be able to add, where was it? It was flagged email. That's the other one I was looking for, is flagged email. So if you're flagging email in your Outlook on your desktop or in your Outlook on your mobile, you can choose to have flagged email show up in ToDo or not. And so that's just something that you can customize in that regard. So I do like the ability to do that. And as you notice here, when I'm back on main screen, this is where flagged email will show up if you choose to add that feature. So this is where you can flag email. Now, as you notice in the Outlook app, you can either use flagged email or task. They show up and they'll just show up on one list or the other. So choose which one works best for you. But that's just an example of how these applications work well together and where you can choose to have them or not. Okay, so one of the things that I want to just public service announcement is Planner is actually going to be moving to tasks. So it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out over the next couple months from Microsoft. So just know that there's going to be some interesting adjustments to how the Assign to You and the tasks section works. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, candidly, but just know that those are some changes that Microsoft is rolling out as they're consolidating some of their different tools. One of the last things I wanted to show you on ToDo is I'm going to click on Gerald here. And if you notice the little icon here next to these, it's because this is a list that then I have chosen to share. So I'm going to click on that to show you what that looks like. If you actually click up here, this is where you'll notice this is where I can share and I can invite. I'm going to click done here. I'm going to click up on the breadcrumbs right here. And this is also where I can rename the list and do some different, themes, some basic things on sorting and editing. But if I'm going to share, this is where I can actually share is by clicking on the little share icon. So you can kind of see that this is something that I've shared with, and then I can click on manage access, stop sharing or not. So there's different things I can do from a sharing perspective, and you can do that in the desktop app or you can do it in the mobile app. So, and then the other thing I like is when you're clicking into individual tasks. So if this is my to-do list, I'm looking at all my different lists and I'm managing my different tasks, and I'm trying to sit down at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day and say, all right, what am I going to do tomorrow, or what am I going to get done today? One of the capabilities that I really like is you can click onto any given list. So I'm just going to click on the personal to-dos for the sake of choosing one, and I'm going to pick on this, don't forget this to-do. So you click into that to-do and you say, this is something I want to get done today, or you can choose to schedule a due date here, but I'm going to just click on add to my day right here. And now when I go back to my, go off this list, I'm just clicking back, and now I'm going to click on my day up here at the top. Now that to-do has been added, and it shows me from which list that has been added. So again, it's just that my day, I went into any one of these and I can choose the different activities I want to get done today. And instead of then navigating between each list on my to-do, I can actually just click on my day up here, and then I can work on my to-do list that I've assigned to myself to get done. So those are some of the cool customizations of ToDo. If you haven't played with that on the mobile app, those are the different customizations and optimizations for you. So now I'm going to I know I'm running a little bit over time, but I'm going to hit on OneDrive really quick, and I'm going to show a cool feature that I like relative to OneDrive. And again, you can have multiple accounts here in OneDrive by clicking at the top. If you want to click and add accounts, forgive me, I need to click on that. This is where you can add accounts. So if you have a personal OneDrive, you can do that too versus your business OneDrive. So that's a couple of ways in which you can do that. And then I actually want to show you a cool feature. So I'm going to go into these pictures folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, notice this little, it looks like it's a camera. And so this is just showing up at the bottom. I'm actually going to use this, and imagine that I'm submitting, or I've just gone out to lunch, or I'm taking a picture of a whiteboard because I just had a meeting. Either one of them applies. And I'm going to take a picture of it. Instead of taking a picture in my photos and emailing it to myself and then saving it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to save it immediately to where I want to save it. So you'll see what I can do here. And you'll be able to see it and watch it along, which I think is kind of cool. So I actually have a picture here, and I'm going to kind of make it a little crooked. So I'm going to click this button right now. It's going to say access camera, yes. So here's my picture, and notice it's crooked. So I'm actually going to take a picture of that. So I'm clicking that button there. Now notice how it automatically it cropped it so that instead of being crooked, it actually kind of cropped it. And if it didn't crop it correctly, I could click this little cropping button up here. So I could click that and I could choose or not, right? It did a great job though, so I'm not even going to bother. But this is where I could choose to crop it differently if it didn't capture a receipt correctly or something like that. So I can do those things with my fingers. I'm going to click cancel because it already did a good job. And if I have multiple documents or images that I want to capture, I can click add new, and then it will add it to the same file before I click done over here. But now that I'm ready to click done, I'm going to go ahead and say it's done. And notice I'm saving it to the pictures folder, and it automatically it looked at my Outlook calendar and it realized that I'm in the middle of this session of keep connected on the go and optimizing your Microsoft apps. It will title it as whatever was on your calendar. So for instance, if I have lunch with vendor partner, it'll actually say that in the title. So I can come up here and choose to change that, and I'll just say example, RX example, excuse me, I meant to say example receipt. So I'm just going to title it, and what I oftentimes do if this was actually a receipt, I'm going to title the date. So I'm going to make it July 27th. I believe that's the right 28th. Excuse me. So I just do that, so that way it reminds me, and then I save it. And now you'll see that it's uploading that file, and that screenshot will be available in this folder right now, and it creates it as a PDF, and I can open that up. I just clicked on it. It's opening it up, and now I can see it. So what that's also doing is syncing back to my machine, and so that instead of me again having to take a picture of that, email it to myself, save it and save it into the folder with the right name that I sometimes will forget to do, you can right in the moment take a picture, save it in the right place, name it appropriately, and it automatically happens for you for submitting receipts. There could be other job pictures, job site pictures. There's lots of ways in which this could be used, but that's a cool feature that I like to show, that by using OneDrive, and that's basically using the capability of Office Lens. That's basically it. The other thing that you could do, the only other thing I wanted to show is how you could actually, and I believe this is in the settings, so I'm going to go up here. There's one thing I forgot to show you when I was up here, is you can actually, I believe what you can do, I'm going to click on the photos here. Yeah, so you can turn on the camera to automatically back up your photos and videos. So like for instance, if you take a picture on your phone, you could turn on sending those photos right to your OneDrive. You may or may not want to do that because of the storage, but there's a lot of storage available on OneDrive, especially if you have a personal OneDrive. That's something you could do as well, not necessarily to your business account, but you could do either one depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So I thought that was kind of a cool feature, which is similar to the iCloud functionality, or I'm sure Android has something similar. I'm just not familiar with it, but this is something where you might be able to save those photos, especially if it's a work phone, or if you have personal photos. That's something you can do with either your work OneDrive or your personal OneDrive. So with that said, those are the key things I wanted to cover with regard to Office 365 mobile apps. I'm going to just start this up really quick, and then we'll go to Q&A. But if any of these apps are something that you're interested in, write them down or download any of them that you may want to use. Then I would say consider, are there other members of your team that could benefit of this? And is there training you could do that might be able to help people use these apps? And are there security measures that, if you're going to roll this out, that you want to think through and have a discussion? We are happy to help walk you through those conversations and help you know what the capabilities are so that you can make the right business decision as far as rolling out some of these tools and these capabilities to your team. And then whatever those baby steps are, try and do something about it in the next 24 to 48 hours. Maybe it's schedule a meeting with the team to review these variables. Maybe it's schedule a meeting with us if you want to talk through the different mobile device management capabilities that exist. But either way, whatever that is for you, I look forward for you taking your next step as far as how to optimize these mobile apps for you and your team. And of course, please join us for future Microsoft 365 virtual events. We're doing them every week. And then once a month, we're also hosting our Power User Group sessions. So if you're the subset of folks in the organization that are really part of driving this forward, really want to understand a little bit more about the back-end infrastructure and some of the technical nuances of how the Microsoft 365 world works, I would encourage you to attend those sessions because you can help drive adoption by understanding, just some of the back-end nitty-gritty details that'll help you deploy this better for your team and your organization. So join us for those in the future. And for those of you who have to drop off, thank you so much for attending and for your time today. I know I went quickly, but again, we try and cram as much as possible into this 30-minute window for you to be able to take it back and watch the recording at a later date. If you can stick around, we'd love to open it up for questions, and I'll pull up the screen mirroring here so we can do that. But again, thank you very much for attending.